Close your eyes for a moment, not to escape the noise, but to feel it more clearly. The air around you is heavy, thick with coal smoke and damp fabric, carrying the metallic taste of iron and the sour edge of overcrowding. Every breath feels worked for, as if the city itself is competing with you for oxygen. Somewhere nearby, steam hisses violently from a grate in the street, followed by the shrill clang of a trolley bell and the grinding roar of steel wheels slicing through a curve above your head. This is not the New York of memory. This is New York at full compression. Open your eyes. We are standing at the southern edge of Manhattan in the year 1900, where land ends but pressure does not. Behind us, the harbor is alive with movement. Steamships crowd the water so tightly that their funnels seem to merge into a forest of iron and smoke. Their horns cut through the fog in long, mournful blasts, announcing arrivals faster than the city can absorb them. Every vessel brings bodies. Every body brings demand. Demand for space, demand for work, demand for survival. New York is no longer becoming a city. It has become a system, and that system is straining. We are not here to admire nostalgia. We are stepping into a moment when the city crossed an invisible line, when growth turned into overload and progress began to outrun control. By 1900, New York is no longer merely expanding outward or upward. It is tightening inward, compressing millions of lives into a geography that was never meant to contain them. I am your guide, and together we will walk through this moment, not as observers, but as participants moving through the city's arteries as it struggles to sustain its own momentum. Our journey will take us northward through a metropolis that never pauses. We will move through streets that vibrate with machinery, neighborhoods collapsing under density, and districts where wealth attempts to rise above chaos without ever fully escaping it. This is the moment when New York stops being manageable. This is when it becomes modern. Let us begin where all pressure accumulates first, at ground level. We step forward into lower Manhattan, and immediately the city closes in around us. Buildings lean toward one another as if conspiring. The sky narrows into a jagged ribbon of gray, broken only by the passing shadow of an elevated train overhead. Sunlight no longer reaches the street directly. It filters down in fragments, bouncing off soot-stained brick and dirty windows before touching the pavement. The street beneath our feet is alive. Not metaphorically, physically. The ground trembles with constant motion. Beneath us, trolley lines hum with electricity. Steam pipes pulse with heat, carrying pressure through a subterranean maze built hastily, expanded endlessly, and rarely redesigned. Sewers strain under waste produced by millions who live stacked above them in ways unimaginable a generation earlier. New York was never rebuilt for this. It was merely added to, layer upon layer, solution upon solution, until nothing aligns cleanly anymore. Above us, the elevated railways dominate the soundscape. Trains thunder past every few minutes, their iron wheels shrieking as they grind along tight curves. Windows rattle. Conversations pause mid-sentence. The city moves in intervals now. Moments of human sound, interrupted by mechanical violence. This is the cost of speed. Look around at the faces passing by. Clerks in dark coats hurry toward offices that demand longer hours than ever before. Messengers weave between wagons and pedestrians, clutching envelopes that carry fortunes in ink. Vendors shout above the noise, competing for attention in a city where silence no longer exists. Everything is urgent. Everything is late. Everything is moving. By 1900, New York has become the economic engine of the nation. Money flows through these streets at a velocity unmatched anywhere else in the world. Decisions made here ripple outward across continents. Railroads rise and fall based on conversations held within blocks of where we stand. But power concentrates pressure, and pressure always finds the weakest points. As we continue north, the smell of salt and sea fades, replaced by the dense odor of coal smoke, machine oil, and human proximity. The docks recede behind us, but the rhythm of arrival never stops. Immigration is no longer an event. It is a constant force, reshaping neighborhoods faster than institutions can respond. This city does not digest. It accumulates. By the end of the 19th century, New York has absorbed wave after wave of newcomers: Italians, Eastern Europeans, Jews, Irish, Germans. Each group pulled by the promise of work and the myth of opportunity. They arrive to find a city already bursting, already tight, already demanding more than it can easily give. And still, more arrive. We pass intersections where electric lights glow even during the day, a recent innovation meant to impose order on chaos. Traffic officers stand in the middle of crossings, arms raised, attempting to choreograph the relentless collision of carts, carriages, trolleys, and pedestrians. Control exists here, but only in fragments, only in moments, never fully. The city's expansion has outpaced its ability to regulate itself. Infrastructure lags behind population, housing lags behind demand, sanitation lags behind density, and yet the belief in endless growth persists. Progress, they say, will solve it. Technology will catch up, markets will adjust, the city will find equilibrium. But standing here in 1900, it is already clear that New York has entered a new phase, one where scale itself becomes the challenge. This is no longer a city that can be understood by walking a few blocks. It must be experienced as a force, and we are only at the beginning. As we move farther north, the city begins to reveal its true form, not as a place, but as a mechanism. Above our heads, the elevated rail lines stretch like iron veins, pulsing with constant motion. Trains arrive and depart with mechanical indifference, indifferent to weather, daylight, or human exhaustion. Their shadows slide across the streets below in rhythmic intervals, briefly darkening faces before vanishing again. Every few minutes, the roar returns, louder than conversation, louder than thought. New York no longer sleeps. It cycles. Look up for a moment. The sky is fractured by steel trestles, power lines, and smoke drifting upward from thousands of chimneys. This vertical congestion is new. For most of human history, cities spread outward. New York spreads upward and inward at the same time, compressing life into layers stacked one on top of another. Movement above, commerce at street level, survival squeezed in between. The elevated railway was meant to solve a problem, to move people faster across growing distances. Instead, it created another one. Noise became permanent. Darkness settled into streets that once saw sunlight. Property values shifted block by block, not based on beauty or location, but on proximity to steel overhead. Progress does not arrive evenly. As we continue walking, notice how quickly the character of the streets changes. A block ago, offices dominated. Now factories emerge. Brick structures with tall, grimy windows exhale heat and soot. Inside, machines run continuously, belts spinning, pistons pumping, furnaces glowing. Human bodies adjust themselves to mechanical rhythm. Arms moving in repetition, lungs filling with dust, minds narrowing to endurance. This is the industrial city at full throttle. By 1900, New York produces goods not just for the nation, but for the world. Clothing, metalwork, food products, printed materials, everything flows outward from here. But production demands sacrifice, and that sacrifice is rarely visible to those who benefit most from it. Children dart through alleys carrying bundles far heavier than they should. Women work long hours in dim rooms, stitching garments destined for shop windows they will never afford. Men descend daily into environments that shorten lives by inches and years at a time. And still, the city pulls them in. What keeps them here is not comfort, it is momentum. There is a sense that leaving would mean falling behind, that survival depends on staying inside the machine, no matter how unforgiving it becomes. New York rewards endurance, but only just enough to keep people from stepping away. As we cross another intersection, steam erupts from a street vent beside us, briefly obscuring vision. For a moment, the city disappears behind a white cloud. When it clears, the street looks unchanged, but the reminder lingers. This city is under pressure everywhere, even beneath its surface. The underground systems that keep New York functioning were never designed for this scale. Water lines strain, sewers overflow during heavy rain. Fires spread rapidly through neighborhoods where buildings stand inches apart. Each solution, introduced over the past decades, has layered complexity on top of fragility. And yet, the belief in control remains strong. City officials publish optimistic reports. Newspapers celebrate growth with bold headlines. Investors pour money into expansion projects that promise efficiency and order. The city convinces itself that it is managing the transformation. But management requires foresight. And New York is moving faster than foresight can keep up. We pause briefly near an intersection where traffic clogs from every direction. A policeman stands in the center, arms raised, whistle shrieking. For a few seconds, order exists. Wagons halt, pedestrians wait, trolleys slow. Then the whistle stops. Movement resumes instantly, surging forward like water released from a dam. The illusion of control collapses as quickly as it formed. This pattern repeats everywhere, small moments of organization swallowed by overwhelming scale. If you're finding yourself absorbed in this walk through 1900 New York, take a moment to stay with us. Subscribing means continuing these journeys, not just through cities, but through the moments when history changed direction without realizing it. We move on. The farther north we go, the more visible the city's internal contradictions become. Grand hotels rise near overcrowded boarding houses. Newly paved avenues intersect with streets still coated in mud and refuse. Electric lights glow beside buildings lit only by gas or candle. New York exists in multiple centuries at once. This coexistence creates friction. Wealth advances rapidly, pulling infrastructure and political attention with it, while entire neighborhoods remain trapped in conditions that worsen year after year. The city grows taller, richer, louder, but not necessarily healthier, and nowhere is that imbalance more visible than in housing. We begin to drift eastward now, away from commercial centers and into residential districts where the city stores its labor force. The air grows heavier. The sounds change. Machinery fades into human noise, voices, footsteps, coughing. The buildings here are not monuments to ambition, they are containers. Tenements rise in dense rows, each designed to maximize occupancy rather than comfort. Fire escapes cling to facades like afterthoughts. Windows open into air shafts barely wide enough to circulate breath. Stairwells smell of damp wood, sweat, and boiled food. Life is compressed here in ways difficult to imagine. Families share single rooms. Privacy dissolves. Noise becomes constant. The city presses inward until personal space disappears entirely. In summer, heat suffocates. In winter, cold seeps through walls never meant to insulate. And yet, even here, the city does not stop. Shops operate on ground floors. Workshops hum behind thin partitions. Children learn early how to navigate streets designed without them in mind. Survival becomes a skill, passed down through observation rather than instruction. This is where the city's energy originates, not in boardrooms or mansions, but in rooms like these, where endurance is practiced daily. As we stand here, surrounded by signs of strain and resilience, one truth becomes unavoidable. New York is no longer governed solely by decisions. It is governed by inertia. The city moves because stopping would mean collapse. And the farther it moves, the harder it becomes to change direction. We turn north again, drawn toward areas where wealth believes it has escaped these pressures, where space widens, where the air grows cleaner, where the illusion of mastery still holds. But the machine follows everywhere. As we step deeper into the residential core of the city, the sensation changes again, not abruptly, but unmistakably. Here, the city no longer feels mechanical. It feels human and strained. The streets are narrower now, pressed inward by buildings that rise without elegance or generosity. Light struggles to reach the ground. Even at midday, shadows dominate. The air hangs heavy, trapped between brick walls that absorb heat in summer and release cold in winter. Every breath carries layers of scent, damp wood, coal smoke, boiled food, unwashed fabric, and something more difficult to name: exhaustion. This is density at a scale the city was never prepared to handle. By 1900, New York has become one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Entire neighborhoods operate beyond capacity, not by choice, but by necessity. Housing shortages force families to compress themselves into spaces designed for far fewer people. Rooms lose their original purpose. Bedrooms become kitchens, kitchens become workspaces, hallways become sleeping areas. Life rearranges itself around scarcity. As we walk, voices spill from open windows. Conversations overlap. Arguments echo down stairwells. Laughter, when it appears, is brief and sharp, cutting through the constant background of struggle. Children dart between adults, navigating the street with an awareness far older than their years. Look closely at the buildings. These tenements were not built to nurture life, they were built to store it. Bricks stacked efficiently, floors divided narrowly, staircases minimized. Fire escapes cling to exteriors like fragile lifelines, often more symbolic than functional. Inside, darkness settles permanently into corners where sunlight never reaches. Disease thrives here. Tuberculosis moves silently from room to room. Influenza spreads through shared air. Contaminated water carries illness faster than any single human ever could. Public health efforts exist, but they are always reactive, never sufficient. The city is learning about sanitation while already drowning in its absence. And yet, despite everything, the streets remain alive. Street vendors set up carts at corners, selling hot food that offers brief comfort against the cold. Small shops operate from ground floors, run by families who sleep just a few steps above their livelihoods. Music drifts from windows on rare evenings, reminding everyone that culture survives even under compression. This is not a city collapsing. It is a city enduring, but endurance has limits. As we continue walking, we pass buildings scarred by fire. Charred brick tells stories of nights when alarms rang too late and escape routes failed. Fires spread quickly here, faster than water, faster than rescue. Entire families can vanish in hours, absorbed into statistics before their names ever appear in print. The city records numbers, the streets remember faces. This imbalance between those who count and those who are counted defines New York at the turn of the century. Wealth concentrates upward and outward, while labor compresses inward and downward. The physical layout of the city mirrors its social hierarchy with unsettling precision. We begin moving westward again, drawn back toward broader avenues where the city appears more composed. The transition is gradual but perceptible. Streets widen, buildings stand apart. The air grows marginally clearer. The noise shifts from human density to organized motion. Here, order returns, at least on the surface. This is where New York reassures itself. Shops display luxury goods behind large windows. Electric lighting glows steadily, reinforcing the illusion of stability. Well-dressed pedestrians move with purpose, shielded by layers of comfort from the realities only blocks away. The contrast is jarring. In one direction, overcrowding suffocates. In the other, excess expands. This proximity is what makes New York unique and volatile. Wealth and poverty are not separated by distance, but by walls thin enough to hear through. The city forces confrontation even when its residents try to look away. As we walk, consider this moment. For the first time, a city this large is trying to function without precedent. There are no historical templates for managing millions living in such proximity, moving at such speed, demanding such resources. Every decision feels experimental. Every solution creates new problems. Reform movements begin to emerge. Journalists document conditions. Activists push for housing regulations, sanitation laws, labor protections. The city becomes a battleground of ideas about responsibility, control, and the role of government in managing human scale. But reform moves slowly. The city moves fast. If this journey through 1900 New York is resonating with you, stay connected. Subscribing means continuing to explore these moments where history quietly reshaped the world we now live in, not through single events, but through pressure that built over time. We are approaching the northern edge of what the city currently considers its core. Ahead, wealth believes it has found room to breathe. Mansions rise where tenements cannot. Parks offer controlled nature. Streets promise distance from the chaos below. But distance does not equal escape. Because the forces shaping the city do not stop at neighborhood boundaries. They follow. As we move toward the upper reaches of Manhattan, the city begins to reveal something deeper than inequality or overcrowding. It reveals inevitability. A sense that New York has set itself on a path that cannot be reversed, only redirected, and only with great effort. The question is no longer whether the city will change. It is whether anyone can truly guide that change. Ahead of us lies the illusion of control, and beyond that, the modern city as we know it. As we continue north, the city begins to loosen its grip, not because pressure disappears, but because it redistributes itself. The streets widen gradually, almost imperceptibly. Buildings no longer lean toward one another. Gaps appear. Trees line avenues in deliberate rows, their presence carefully planned rather than accidental. The noise does not vanish, but it changes character. Fewer shouts, fewer collisions, more rhythm, more control. At least that is how it feels. We are entering the realm where New York believes it has mastered itself. Fifth Avenue stretches ahead like a declaration. Stone mansions rise behind iron gates, their facades carved to project permanence and authority. These are not homes designed merely for comfort. They are symbols built to announce that wealth has conquered uncertainty. Fortunes made in railroads, steel, shipping, and finance have crystallized into architecture. Here, power feels solid. Here, order appears intentional. But look more closely. Behind the polished stone, the city is still unfinished. Construction sites interrupt the grandeur. Empty lots sit beside palaces. Scaffolding clings to new buildings like proof that even here, nothing is complete. The city is racing northward because it has nowhere else to go. This expansion is not ambition. It is necessity. The elite have moved uptown to escape congestion, noise, and density, but they have not escaped dependence. Every mansion relies on invisible labor flowing daily from the very neighborhoods we left behind. Servants, drivers, cooks, cleaners, the machine follows, quietly sustaining the illusion of separation. Control in New York is always partial. We pause near the edge of Central Park, still young, still settling into the landscape. Designed as a corrective measure, it offers greenery as relief, order as remedy. A space where the city attempts to regulate itself through design rather than force. It is beautiful, intentional, necessary, but it cannot absorb everything. By 1900, New York has become too complex to be governed by singular vision. No planner, no politician, no industrialist fully understands the whole. Decisions are made in fragments, transportation here, housing there, sanitation somewhere else, without ever fully addressing the system as a living organism. And yet, the city thrives. That is the paradox. New York is strained, unequal, loud and overwhelming, and still irresistible. People continue to arrive, capital continues to concentrate, innovation continues to emerge. The city does not slow down to heal, it adapts while moving. This is the birth of the modern city. A place defined not by balance, but by tension, not by harmony, but by motion, not by control, but by momentum. Standing here at the turn of the century, the future is already visible. The skyscrapers are coming, the automobile will reshape streets. Subways will burrow deeper beneath the surface. Neighborhoods will rise, fall, and rise again under different names. Inequality will persist, transformed but never erased. The horses will disappear. The steam will fade. The telegraph wires will vanish underground, but the city's soul, restless, ambitious, and unsatisfied, will remain. When we look back at New York in 1900, we are not just seeing a moment frozen in time. We are seeing the blueprint of the world we now inhabit. Cities that grow faster than they can manage. Systems that strain under their own success. Lives compressed by opportunity and pressure in equal measure. This is not just New York's story. It is ours. Thank you for walking through this city with me. If this journey helped you see the modern world differently, if you felt the weight, the movement, and the meaning behind these streets, then stay with us. Subscribe to the channel and continue exploring the layers beneath the cities we think we know. Each reconstruction is another step through time, another moment when history quietly shaped the present. And before you go, tell us in the comments, if you could step into New York City in 1900, where would you stand? History is still here. You just have to keep walking.